Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining. Apologies for the lateness today. Both Max and I had some technical issues we're dealing with, mostly me. We're here now, we're going to answer some questions at the very end, so please stick your question in the chat as soon as possible. They're more likely to get answered. If you leave it till last minute, they won't. They'll get ignored until you next ask them. So there we go. Anyway, how are you doing today, Max?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Happy Thursday to you, bud. Great to chat with you
Happy
again.
Thursday. Yeah, it's one of the grimmest days of the week, so you've got still another day to the weekend. You had enough days to feel wrecked. That's why it's here.
Yeah,
Um, we
yeah.
work from home, so it's a bit different, obviously. But yeah, so the topic of today is ultimately about fat to protein ratios. Why the idea of a ratio itself is probably a very poor, unscientific, and generally useless idea. So we're going to go through nuances. Both Max and I have consulted with, spoken with various people in podcast interviews, talked about the pros of high protein and the high fat diet. We tend to have the same sort of aligning belief that it's an animal-based diet. We both believe in getting enough protein, so we're definitely more animal protein centric than other people, I guess. But I guess we'll dive into it then. So, what have you been hearing like recently? What's the current trend in low carb space in regards to protein to fat ratios and intakes?
More fat. That's what people. That's what I typically hear. A lot of the people, especially like the ketogenic people, obviously are going to say a higher fat to protein ratio. But I would say for muscle building purposes, you got to have the building blocks there. So like Richard Smith would probably be on the same page as us, in regards to what. So this is going to be an interesting debate too. Like, what is the most important macronutrient? Right? Is it fat or is it protein? Dr. Kiltz would say fat, right? I just did a really interesting interview with Stephanie Keto Person. Are you familiar with her?
I know exactly who she is. She's a very lovely, lovely lady from the US. An absolute
Yeah.
shill and lies to people to get them to be their clients.
Really? That's a
Yes,
bold statement.
that's
That's
an
a
honest statement. I've been watching her for about 4 or 5 years. Um,
yeah.
she'll bring someone on, negative Nelly. I've had a bad experience with this coach from that side of the carnivore space. They go on, talk behind her back, blah, 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 blah. I can do it better. I've lost weight because I've just lost half a pound of muscle mass each week for the last 8 weeks. Yeah, well, no kidding. You're starving yourself. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not the biggest fan, and it does. It's not a personal thing. I don't really know her, but from the standpoint of what I've observed, I'm not the biggest fan.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting interview. Nice lady. But she definitely has big opinions about other people in the space in regards to what's ideal for optimal health, what's ideal for like muscle building goals and all those types of things. But still, like at the end of the day, the way I look at things is like you got to have the resources. You got to have the resources available to build muscle, right? It all just comes down to what the goal is. What is your goal? If the goal is feeling better, gut health, mental cognition, you're dealing with mental illness, then the goal is you can't. I feel like you can't have your cake and eat it too. You have to pick a priority, right? Like, and I feel like a lot of the times, even I have trouble with that. Like, I want this and I want to get stronger and I want the best mental cognition, but I also want to put on more muscle. Sometimes we gotta pick a route and go with it. And I feel like as human beings, we don't want to do that. We kind of want everything. But if the goal is muscle mass, hypertrophy, better workouts, I feel like you've got to have the fat in there. If you're a low carb athlete, like if you're a Robert Sykes, that is your energy source. You got to have the fat in there, but you have to have enough protein. If you are going in the gym, you're lifting to failure, you have intense workouts. If you don't have enough protein, you're not going to be able to recover, and your body's not going to have the resources in order to build the muscle. If that is your goal, right? If that's the number one priority over health, mental cognition, feeling better, gut health, if that's the number one priority, you got to have the protein be high enough in order to recover from the workouts and rebuild the muscle to come back stronger.
Mm.
That's what I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, from a very sort of logical, zoomed out standpoint, that makes sense. I mean, you have what you need and you have what you use, in and out kind of theory. It makes sense. Um, I'll probably outline what I'd consider a even split, and
Hmm.
also a high fat and a high protein version. So, if we're looking at percentage of total philosophical calories, I would say something like 65, 60% fat, 35, 40% protein was about 1 to 1. So
Hmm.
that's what people typically do that I notice. You get subset people now, which is very popular, which is the higher fat approach. So it might be more 1.5 grams of fat to 1 gram of protein, or even 2 grams per 1 gram of protein. So that works out something like 75 to 85% of your caloric needs from fat. And then a high protein approach tends to be protein just being generally set to where it is, and fat being the lever. So you've got the way I see it is the muscle in your body is constituted of protein mostly, and water, glycogen, things like that as well. The thing is, if we need a certain amount each day to sort of maintain it, you know that. Whereas the fat number that we have can vary a lot. So that's why Max and I, for example, we might have just say hypothetically, we might have 20 pounds muscle mass difference between us. That's about it between us as two humans. Now Max could also be 200 pounds overweight from fat, or I could be 100 pounds underweight from lack of fat. That variance, that fat, is obviously the bigger lever. Because a protein, our muscle mass are similar human to human sort of thing, but fat, we get people that are skinny and very over fat. So
Yeah.
that's obviously the thing. There's obviously a composition side of things. Um, Outside of that, I mean, anecdotally, so I'm going to give you guys different standpoints here. Max, obviously, feel free to interject if you've got a different opinion or want to
Sure.
consolidate anything. Um, so I tend to notice people tend to be 1 to 1 protein to fat. Protein intake in my clients that have the most success, so the best body composition outcomes after, say, whatever, every 3 6 month period of time, they tend to do something like 2.2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of lean body mass or body mass. So if they're very over fat, which they aren't in this case, they're all athletic sort of people, they're going to be shooting more towards 2.5. So if someone was 220 pounds, that's 100 kilos, they might be taking in something like 250 grams of protein per day. Maybe 220 as well, depending on how much they work out, the daily activities, things like that. So that's what I find tends to help them signal leptin, so the hunger hormones. It keeps their muscle mass on, helps them build strength, helps them maintain their thyroid hormone output, gives them all the amino acids, vitamins, and minerals that the body needs. So I'd say I'm definitely more of a high protein advocate, but I'm not high protein for the sake of being high protein. There's rationale behind it. So if there is no need or requirement to increase it, I don't increase it. So it's a dose dependent response. Now the fat tends to be what varies a lot. So I've noticed the most biohacked, tweaked out, healthiest people with the best blood work and all that sort of stuff, they tend to tolerate more fat. They probably have a better lifestyle, maybe have more money to spend on like their medical expenses, maybe more blood work, maybe more biohacks. So their fat does tend to be higher, so their mitochondrial rate tends to be higher, in my opinion. So I can give you guys an anecdote here. So I've got two clients. One of them's 5'10", one of them's about 6'2". The 6'2" is a black gentleman from the US, and the white gentleman is 5'10" from Poland. Now, they're both in the end of their cutting phase, roughly, sort of near enough, like 12 weeks in. We've taken like a good, I don't know, 4 to 8 kilos of fat off them each, and that's been sustained with perfect muscle mass retention, no sort of low mood, no real negative effects. So we've done it quite easily on a carnivore diet. Both are long-term carnivores. Now, you'd have thought they've got somewhat. I mean, I'd say the black individual, the 6'2" guy, has got more muscle mass. But it's funny, they're in the same sort of end of their deficit in terms of what they wanted to achieve. And the white 5'10" gentleman, he's actually dieting on a lot more fat than the other one. And the
Interesting.
differences are their lifestyles. So one of them has a 9 to 5 sort of job. The other one has a mixed shift all over the clock sort of job, getting back home late, having breakfast at weird times, travel a lot. That seems to be a bigger impact as
Interesting.
well.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the more sort of like ancestrally appropriate you are, quote unquote, it seems to better your mitochondria run. I'm giving one example here, but this is something just that's obvious to me. There's probably thousands of that anecdotes out there, probably similar. But what do you think about that?
No, I mean, obviously that makes a lot of sense. So the gentleman that you said, the 6'2" guy from the US, is he like a night shift worker?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Well, that makes a ton of sense, right? Like you said, ancestrally appropriate. Like if your circadian rhythm is all over the place, you're working till late at night, you're sleeping maybe the majority of the day because of your hours, your mitochondria is going to be off for sure, but your circadian rhythm, your recovery is going to be off. Like human beings, and like that's what's crazy about shift workers. Like God love the firefighters and the police officers and the first responders, but the one thing that it just kills them, I would say, from a gains perspective, is like they're sleeping a lot of the times during the day, or they're not really able to recover. And so that makes a lot of sense to me that the gentleman in Poland is going to. So it sounds like to me the gentleman in Poland is seeing a lot better body composition outcomes with how he's dieting and recovering than the gentleman that's shift working out in the US, correct?
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You got to, and I know that there's really nothing you can do about that, right? Unless you start bringing in, I would say, exogenous supplements, peptides, things to, that's when I would start supplementing hard, to be honest with you. If I was a shift worker and you're not able to recover, you can't sleep during the night, you have to sleep during the day. Like your recovery is going to be all over the place, right? Like that's when I
Yeah.
would take biohacking to the ninth degree.
That's sensible. Yeah. So we do the best we can with him.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'd love to say we could take this many supplements, peptides, hormones, and it does not cover poor sleep. There's no
Yeah.
antidote for it. We can mask it. We can take caffeine tablets during the day, take maybe melatonin at night, some glycine, things like that. But at the end of the day, if your sleep, even if you get the same amount of sleep during that time, if you're not getting it in the dark hours of the day and you're not getting
Yeah.
sunlight, especially as a black gentleman, he needs more sunlight anyway. He's got
Hmm.
more of a solar callus to block out the UV rays sort of thing, so he doesn't burn. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I guess in regards to like what the current community is saying, they're definitely said to be more high fat advocates. The thing is, this sounds a little bit harsh, but I'm known on my channel for being very honest, and what I observe is what I report, and it might not be what everyone's cup of tea is. But the thing is, most people that are advocating for high fat carnivore have not achieved their goals. They're still overweight, still diabetic or pre-diabetic, still dealing with different metabolic syndromes, conditions. So I'm thinking maybe I think there's a bit of a I almost want to say mass hysteria, but there might be a better way of wording it. So feel free.
Mm.
But so like you've got people that start on a carnivore diet, and you've got Ken Berry saying eat all the fat, eat all the meat. Then the same Dr. Kilt said, all the
Beef,
all the
butter, bacon,
doctors.
eggs, that type of deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the doctors are saying, eat higher fat, which is, makes sense. You're going to be eating more fat by default because you're not eating carbs for the most part.
Yeah.
I think people get from A to B in their situation, and they've gone from a standard Western diet to a high fat, keto, carnivore, low carb diet. Oh, I've dropped some pounds. I've got in better shape. I feel fitter. Less inflammation. High fat carnivore works for me.
Yep.
No, you're still in the middle. You haven't achieved point C yet, or point Z, point Z. You're still in the middle bit. So as your body changes, your diet has to change.
Yes.
So if I was 300 pounds and over fat, and I might be starting on 300 grams of fat daily on a carnivore diet, hypothetically, when I'm 200 pounds, I'm not going to need that 300 pounds. The chance that I'm not doing that much more activity to compensate for the 100 grams of extra fat per day. That's what I think people are getting wrong. And they're thinking, this has worked, so it'll always work. But no, the body is a biologically dynamic system.
Yes.
So you see what I mean? You're trying to gain a bit of extra muscle now. You're adding a bit of fat to your diet. You're conscious of meeting your protein each day. You're doing your
Yes.
workouts, checking your recovery. So you're just using a measured approach. But what do you think about that then? Like, what's your sort of
You
summarizing views, if any?
You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head, and I think that's one of the problems too. Like kind of reminds me of the JJ Virgin podcast I just did. She's more of like a low carb proponent. She looks at keto, she looks at carnivore as tools, but there is a difference between burning dietary fat and burning body fat. Okay, so let's take the guy that's 300 pounds and he's trying to get to 200 pounds. Like he's a 6-foot gentleman, he's 300 pounds and 200 pounds. So what happens is he removes the carbohydrates. He goes on, let's say, a carnivore diet, a high fat diet, and he's eating 2-to-1 fat to protein, 2-to-1 fat to protein. Okay. He's going to lose weight mainly because of the insulin, right? He's dropping the insulin. He's removing the carbohydrates. If he's eating more protein and more fat in general, he will generally be satiated. He can go longer between meals, no snacks, won't be hungry all the time. He's going to lose weight. Let's say he gets from 300 pounds, he gets to 250, and then he gets to that plateau. The same macronutrient breakdown he was eating when he was at 300 versus when he was at 250, it's not going to get him from 250 to 200. Right? He's at what we all know and understand is a plateau. So he's going to have to shift or pull different levers around his macronutrients. And what I would suggest is if the goal is just losing body fat, you might have to slightly increase your protein a little bit and then pull back on the fat lever, right? Pull back the dietary fat that you're consuming because, like, think about it. Like you said, your body is what was the amazing word you just used?
Biologically dynamic system.
Yeah, that sounded really good. That's exactly what the body is.
Stephen right? Loved that one as well. I was like, yeah, I just put a load of words together and it kind of worked.
No, you said that when you were on my podcast, and I was like, that is exactly correct because that sounds amazing. But think about it. Your body is always striving for homeostasis. Your body doesn't necessarily want to lose tons of body fat, and it doesn't want to lose it fast. Why? Because from a survival standpoint, your body wants to keep body fat on. But if you are consuming, if you lose 50 pounds and you are still consuming the same amount of dietary fat as you were when you were 50 pounds heavier, you're going to hit a plateau and your body's going to start utilizing your dietary fat instead of your stored body fat. So how do we fix that? Well, one thing you could do, play around with a couple levers. Like I said, you can bump the protein up so the satiation is still high. You're maintaining the muscle mass that you do have if you're active or whatever, but you're going to have to pull the fat back for sure a little bit. So you allow your body to tap into your stored body fat rather than using all of the dietary fat that you're eating throughout the diet. And that's how you move. That's how the gentleman that's now 250 pounds gets to 200 pounds. Like that is what I would do. That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah. When I explain this to people, they look at me like I'm nuts. Like, I'm a bodybuilder, and every bodybuilder around the world, whether them be low carb, keto, carnivore, or gym bro diet, chicken, broccoli, rice, they all know to become less fat, they have to have less energy substrate in the system to tap into fat. It seems like when I talk to people, they're like, but you can't heal. I'm like, you've got nothing to heal. If you're like 400 pounds, you need to be losing body fat to heal. Your body will never be as efficient at 400 pounds versus 200 pounds, ever. So I find it like I'm lost for words because I explain it. I cite the studies and everything, and they think I'm like I'm trying to trick them. I'm like, no, I'm actually giving you the best advice you could ever get. And it's not even, it's rudimentary to us because we live it, but you know.
Well, here's the other thing, Jonathan, you just brought up. We were talking about this at the beginning. It's having your cake and eating it too. Do you want to heal? Do you want to heal? Or do you want to put on like muscle mass? Like, you might not be able to do both things at the same time. It's two different goals, right? It's like, it's two completely different goals. There is 100% there's 100% a diet for like fertility, women that are trying to get pregnant and their hormones are messed up. Well, yeah, you're going to have to do like you need the fat for the hormone production, right? So you're going to have to do a higher fat carnivore diet, ketogenic diet, whatever variation you want to choose. The fat's got to be up there for the hormone production. But here's what people don't do. They don't realize when their priorities have shifted. Because now when the person who is losing body fat or has healed, but now they want to start going to the gym more often, right? They're starting to work out every single day and they're trying to put on muscle mass. That exact high fat diet might need to be manipulated just a bit to align with the goal that you have now rechosen, right? And so you have different variations, you use different tools for different things. Like healing is a completely different goal than trying to maximize muscle mass and get as strong as possible. You gotta utilize two different approaches for that. And a carnivore approach, or like a high fat carnivore approach, a ketogenic approach, there is some overlap, right? If you're the type of person that changes their entire life, you start working out, you've got autoimmune issues, you've got mental health issues, you've got gut issues, you can actually fix a handful of things at the same time. But once you decide, like you have to kind of identify what the main priority is and then adjust the diet, the macronutrient intake to reflect what it is you're ultimately going for, right? Does that kind of make sense? Like in the beginning,
Yeah.
a high fat carnivore diet can get you a little bit of healing, can help with mental cognition,
Covers a
can
lot of
put on,
ground.
yeah, it covers a lot of ground, especially if you're untrained. You haven't worked out in 5 years and you start lifting weights and you start going hard. Yeah, for sure. You're probably going to be able to put on some muscle mass. But then if you ultimately decide, okay, I'm going to work with Jonathan and I want to sign up for a bodybuilding competition, boom, the goals have completely changed. Now you have a priority number one. You have to completely shift, right, and adjust your macronutrient intake to reflect what your main priority goal is, because you've healed everything now, right? You feel good mentally, the gut's working the right way, the hormones are working the right way. Now you want to step on stage and be a bodybuilder, boom, you got to change what you're doing, right? You can't just keep doing the exact same thing.
That's it. And sometimes these changes are quite minute. So we're actually joined by my friend and client Kimberly in the chat. She's a perfect anecdote for this. So she lives with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, joint hypermobility, the other little things here and there, sort of thing. So I knew of her, she's going to have more susceptibility to, like, leaky gut, intestinal permeability, joint problems. So not just the training changes, the diet has to adapt to her as well. So for her, I know maybe not getting enough dietary fat in could be a problem. Maybe we know to only pull that at a certain point. So if I notice every week she's complaining of joint pain and her fat's like 70 grams or low, I think it's quite low like that, I'm like, okay, maybe we need to like lower the protein a little bit, increase the fat just a little bit, just to find that little pigeonhole spot. So it's not always like you need to do that or that. So the idea of a ratio, like you're doing that or you're doing that, it's like somewhere in the middle. The middle was usually best, because that's where when we do scientific studies, the people in the middle are the people that tend to get the most results. You got the best p-values, you got the best what's it called, margin of error. There's a name for it. The trend seems to be that people in the middle tend to do better, I think. So that's been my kind of take on how I deal with clients and things. And the thing is as well, people don't quite get this, even when you show them studies and show them a little graph and pictures and everything. You've got effectively 3 storage buckets in the system when it comes to macronutrients. Well, 4 technically. So you got protein, carbs, fats, water. And water is a macronutrient, it's a big nutrient. But for this point of discussion, we're just talking about protein, carbs, fats, the energetic substrates. Protein we store in our body. We can store some amount of it in our bloodstream, but not a lot. The next one we have is obviously carbohydrates. We can store that in our muscle glycogen, in our liver. In some parts of our body, the glucose from that is absolutely required. So once we get below a certain threshold of muscle or, bodily glycogen, that's just contained by the muscles and, tissues and things, our brain won't work. There has to be, we have to have a backup system to keep that glucose from dropping, or that muscle glycogen dropping. That's where protein and fat come in. That's where gluconeogenesis comes in. So, but the idea is if your glucose is too low, fat comes in, carbons come off, that feeds the electron transport chain for the mitochondria, that goes through the ATPase, that pumps out ATP energy. Our body uses that energy to create something, do something, move, breathe, whatever. The excess is breathing out through oxidized carbons, I believe. So when we're breathing out, that's where most of our mass comes from. Something like 84% of the mass that we breathe out is actual fatty tissues that come out, and about 16% is water vapor. So think of it like chemistry in school. That plus that equals that. That's what our body is doing all the time. We lose the most amount of fat actually at night, believe it or not. It's quite interesting. Due to like hormonal shifts and things. But the next one we've got is a protein. So people are like, oh, but you can't store protein. You can, you just store it as muscle if you give the body the incentive to do it. So you do resistance training. The other thing as well is people don't realize is protein is obviously a very slow thing to break down. You eat a steak versus you eat, I don't know, a bag of Haribo, some sweets, some candy, that will digest quickly, be assimilated quickly, and do whatever it's got to do. Protein will be in your stomach for 4, 5, 6 hours maybe. So that's a steady state flow of energy going through your body. Now you can convert some of that protein energy through your meat into glucose, but that is primarily through a demand-driven process. That demand-driven process is only activated when the fat substrate on your body, or your ingested amount, or your carbohydrate ingested or in your body as muscle glycogen, is depleted. The more depleted it becomes, the more upregulated the enzymes need to break down muscle tissue or dietary protein tissue to create muscle glycogen and things like that. The thing is, you've got to try and get your body to burn the oxidized fat through your body, but leaving the muscle intact. If there's sufficient protein, you've not got to worry about losing muscle. The more muscle you lose when you're trying to lose fat, the lower your metabolic rate is, the harder time you have, then you're working against yourself. So your scale weight might be going down in the instance of definitely keto person. I guarantee, I strongly believe that if you had someone following her approach, so say 80% fat, 20% protein by caloric value, if you followed her approach, you had 2 twins, you had someone doing my approach, which is higher protein but moderate fat, I guess you could say, or fat is dependent on what maintenance is for them. The person eating higher protein would have more muscle mass on their body at the end of it and feel better by a 1 year span, say. So I mean, the thing about Stephanie is not a personal attack. I don't know her in that sense, but her point of view is that, I'll hear her say, oh, I've got a 6'1" man. He eats 90 grams of protein a day and 300 grams of fat per day or something like that. Like, okay, great. The fat he's taking is sparing the protein, but he's only getting that minimal shift of intake, that flux of nitrogen and leucine and anabolic signaling to cross that threshold into building muscle versus losing muscle. He's always tethering on that ledge. So say he has a bad day, he doesn't sleep well, he'll lose more muscle that day than someone having a high protein diet because he has that potential deficit. So it doesn't always compute that way. So that's kind of debunking that kind of side of things, I think. But is there anything I can clarify there, or anything you want to add to that at all? So the way I see it, people say it's fat or carbs. I say it's fat, carbs, or protein, but the protein is more of a ongoing backup lever when the other stuff isn't working. But we don't have to worry about that because we live in a world full of. You go to the supermarket, you can buy olive oil, butter, peanut butter, whatever fats you like, whatever carbs you like. We're not in a state where we have to spot for it, sort of thing. So we don't have the same problems that we used to have. So what do you think?
No, I mean, I think the way that you just broke that down was beautiful, right? Like you're the science guy of this podcast for sure. I feel like I'm the generalist.
Ideas. Yeah, but that's the thing though. I specialize in this. I couldn't answer the questions that you answer. I couldn't specialize in your things.
No, and what happened, what I think you did is you just broke it down really, really beautifully, and you explained the science. And the way that I intake a lot of that is, if you are trying to lose weight, you want to lose as little muscle as possible. That should be our goal. That should be everyone's goal. It's not just seeing the weight on the scale go down, right? So to maintain the muscle mass as you're losing weight, you have to make sure you're doing resistance training, like you said, but you've got to make sure the protein that you're intaking is sufficient enough so you don't put your body in a position to where you are losing muscle mass as you're losing weight. We don't want to do that. We want to lose as much body fat as we possibly can, maintain the muscle mass through proper resistance training and protein intake, and that's what's going to give it. That's exactly how I took that in.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad that made sense. I guess we probably need to cover one little area surrounding this as well, is the idea of, maybe not today because it's quite a big one, but the idea of like tracking ketones. The idea that a higher fat diet will result in, we kind of alluded to this a little while ago, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but do you remember we're talking about cancer and whether it's autophagy or ketone levels or blood glucose, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so I had a little, someone in my YouTube channel section asked a question or said something, and I was like, they said basically, is it better to fat fast or just fast? And I was like, well, if you're new to fasting and you've not already been eating a high fat diet, I'd probably go more towards the side of water fasting. If you're in ketogenic state already, yeah, you don't need to do a fat fast. Your body's already upregulated enzymes need to break down fat from your body anyway, like to some degree. I think the problem is that they said basically, what if they do a fat fast and they have more fat in the system but no protein? Isn't that going to release more ketones, which is more healing? And I thought, no, you're just, if you've got a substrate of fat in your body, you're giving it more fat. You're just creating that barrier in your muscle glycogen, brain tissue, like energy substrate of the cell, and you're overlapping it, which is allowing that overspill of ketones. So when you prick yourself with a thing, stab a thing, your ketone levels will be higher, but it doesn't mean you're producing more ketones out of benefit. It means your body is just thinking, well, I can't burn this fat off my body, so I'm going to artificially raise ketones from my blood, which might make you feel good, but you're not going to heal any quicker because of it, I don't think. Because the whole point of water fast is to recalibrate your nervous system, your skin, like your whole body, basically, isn't it? So
yeah,
that's kind of my take, and I think that there's different uses for fat fasting versus water fasting. But the idea of tracking ketones, I'm just really not for. I think it doesn't land you anywhere, personally.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, first off, the question that comes up into my mind is like, what are we fasting for? You brought up cancer, right? Are you familiar with Daniel Orego? He does, basically he offers like metabolic therapies. He trained under like Professor Thomas Seyfried. He trained under like Dominic D'Agostino. He offers like metabolic therapies to people that are going through like cancer treatments. What he was saying in terms of the fasting, because that's like a big thing. Like, oh, if you have cancer, go on a ketogenic diet and do fasting. Well, that's not necessarily going to, heal you and fix you. Like a lot of the times too, if you are a cancer patient and you're doing the traditional cancer therapies, you might not want to do fasting, right? Because that's just going to add another level of stress to the body. You're already not going to be consuming a lot of food. That could put you in a kind of a detrimental state. But it's interesting when you bring up the fasting, like what are we doing the fasting for? Like if you're doing it like really from a metabolic therapy perspective, and if you've got cancer, you want to get like the glucose ketone index as low as you possibly can. Like that's what you want. And that's going to put the pressure on the tumor cells. That's kind of aligns with his press pulse therapy that Thomas Seyfried came up with. But it kind of just depends on what you're doing the fasting for. Like why are you doing fasting? And I think it kind of just depends on the scenario. Like, again, if you're a cancer patient and you're doing traditional cancer therapies, you might not want to do some fasting because you're already putting your body you're already in a depleted state. You're already going to put your body in another depleted state. It might not be the best. So it's all, I just feel like, again, it just kind of you got to understand why you're doing the fasting, like what use are you doing it for specifically?
Yeah, I know a man on YouTube, a content creator, and they're doing different kinds of fasting, and I think, yeah, they've got too much body fat on them. It's probably helpful, great, but the problem is their adherence is embarrassingly bad. So they're looking for the next challenge, the next sort of thing. It's like, if you look around you, who adheres to the best of the carnivore diet? Like you don't follow a strict carnivore diet, but you adhere well. You enjoy your current diet, which is animal based. few
Yep.
peppers, some onions, some mushrooms, maybe bit of
Yep.
avocado. There we go. Like the goal isn't to be carnivore. The goal is to find a tool to get you to where you need to be. For
A
a lot of
thousand
people, it
percent.
is carnivore or something adjacent. Um, yeah, for me, it's very use case individual. So specific. So I mean, if you're doing it but you can't stay on a strict carnivore diet, you're better off just. I'd rather see someone be 100 or even 99% adherent to a strict carnivore diet over the span of a year than do a few fasts here and there, not be strict.
Yeah.
They're just falling off. There's no. The body likes consistency, doesn't it? Really, it's you like to adapt, but too much adaptation when you're in a chronic world of chronic illness is not helpful. You know, we just need to find a little pocket where we sort of groove into. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I think. But it's a tool. But yeah, I think we'll cover this one last in regards to this topic. Then we'll get through the questions because we've got quite a few here today. Um,
Yeah.
so, what kind of side of the fence are you on, or are you neither? So, Richard Smith, high protein, or everyone, Dr. Kilt's high fat. Like, say you're on a desert island, you had access to both, but only one of them. What would you pick?
Oh man, well, that's a good question because that's a different type of scenario, right? Like,
It's an
if
impossible scenario, probably, but yeah,
yeah, okay, so the scenario, okay, is different than me being at my house and my goal being to put on as much muscle mass as possible. If the goal is survival, I'm picking fat, right? Because I'm not wasting my energy on the desert island going over to a palm tree to do 100 pull-ups that day. I'm trying to live. I'm trying to
yeah.
survive. I'm not trying to work out. I don't care what I look like and my body composition. I would go with fat, 1,000%. You know.
I would as well. Yeah, I think the thing is that these sort of things don't come in isolation, like in studies where they get these drinks of just pure sugar or pure protein. But yeah, I mean, now flip the question. So in the modern world, so your max, you can do your pull-ups at home. You like to be fit and healthy. Your access to both, but you have to pick one.
Mm. I get that's a hard question. If I have to pick one,
Mm.
mm, I can't have a little bit of both.
That's the thing.
I,
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
that's
I mean,
hard.
over a span of a year, would you rather have a surplus of protein or a surplus of fat? There we go.
I feel like over the course of the year, I would rather have a surplus of protein. Like your body can obviously, that's what gluconeo, like for instance, if we, like, if we were human beings stuck in a remote area and you were hunting animals and the only thing you had to live off of was like lean meat, then that would be the scenario. Like your body is going to utilize protein through the gluconeogenesis pathway. You know what I mean? For like an energy source. It's not ideal. You need to have some fat in there, of course. But if I had to pick one, I might go, and I'm still working out, right? Then I'm going to probably pick the protein route. I'm probably going to pick the protein route if I had to pick one.
Yeah,
What would you pick?
I
What
would.
would you pick?
I'd pick identically actually. Just the gluconeogenesis pathway. I think from an evolutionary adaptive standpoint, it makes sense that we created or that was designed within us to deal with those situations.
Yeah.
Also, I know myself, my genetics are very much protein centered. Um, you can get you can give me a high fat, low protein diet or a high protein, low fat diet. I've tried both. I do better on a high protein, low fat diet.
Hmm.
Not great, not ideal. I'll get very lean. I probably won't feel that great, but I
Yeah.
think I'd persist longer. Just long over a long period of time. But yeah, interesting discussion. But we'll get to the questions now because I'm sure we've got quite a few.
And real
First is
quick,
from
real
Trisha.
quick, Jonathan, I've got about
Yeah, yeah.
8 minutes. So let's bang these questions out and try to help some
Let's
people.
bang them out, and I'll just do the other one. So both of you, I'm still definitely a beast, but at my age, the mobility issues, my muscle wastage and weakness is my biggest concern. I eat mostly lean protein, about 8 to 10 ounces daily. Weight 246. So she eats
She eats
200
lean.
and geez, that's not a lot. 240 grams max. So half a pound of meat you're eating a day.
That's not enough. That's only
Two
like
burger patties.
yeah, that's only like 8 ounces of meat. Like I would, but what I want to know
That's
is
not a
like
lot.
where her hunger is at. Is she hungry? Like if she's
Yeah.
what ratio of amount of protein? Like I mean, if you're overweight and you still have weight to lose, you could either go like a 1-to-1 protein to fat ratio or a 2-to-1 protein to fat ratio, and that will help move you past the plateau. But like Jonathan was saying, 8 ounces of meat, that's
Yeah.
not enough. That's maybe 8 ounces of ground beef, I believe, is like 50 to 60 grams of protein. That's not, I don't think that's enough,
For me,
Jonathan.
I reckon I eat about double that per meal.
Yeah, yeah,
It's literally two burger patties, like two standard burger patties. Um,
yeah,
yeah, rather than complain about how little she's eating, let's try and be helpful to her.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'll be looking at increasing your food, Patricia. So I've got a
yeah,
video that came out within the last week or two. Something like metabolism reset, or what your coaches haven't told you about your thyroid, something like that. Um, I would personally look at that video for ideas. Your intake is very low, and you will lose muscle at that state. And if you're 246 pounds and that's over fat for you, and you're not the scale weight isn't budging, you probably need some sort of like boost, some sort of like a reverse diet, leptin reset sort of protocol. So I'd look at my channel for that sort of thing. And that's personally where I'd go. But in regards to protein and fat ratio, you're gonna want to get your protein up. That's going to be the biggest thing, a lever that's going to impact you for your goals, in my opinion. I think, like Max said. But
yeah.
yeah, should
And
we move to the
also,
next one, or have you got anything to add?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Just real quick for her. I mean, just think about it. Like, I would, if I were you, Patricia, I would be shooting for at least like 100 to 130 grams of protein per day for sure. Because as you lose, because that's going to do a couple things. One, like, yes, you're going to have to eat a little bit more food, but the protein's going to keep you satiated, right? That's also going to keep your muscle mass on your body. So the weight you lose, like we were talking about earlier, the weight you lose will not be your muscle. It's going to be the body fat. And if you keep the fat at a at or below the protein, your body will tap into your stored body fat, and that's going to help you lose the body fat and then spare the muscle. That's what I would say.
yeah, I agree. Just if it's helpful, I don't know if she knows macros and stuff. I'm not sure, but basically, what you're referring to now, Patricia, if you're picking fatty meat, pick a little bit leaner,
Yeah,
but times it by 2.5, and that will give you about 120, 130 grams of protein a day. You're
exactly.
currently
Like if it's
taking in
ribeyes,
less than my nan.
yeah. Yeah, if you're eating like 70 30 ground beef, or like a ribeye, I would go for like a leaner cut, and then yeah, exactly.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Right, well, far away. So the next one is from Kimberly. Can you talk about women in menopause and macros? I know a lot of women in menopause are turning to carnivore to help with thyroid help and symptom help, but also come to lose weight. Yeah, that's all the question. So
This is a good question.
it's the old thyroid thing, isn't it? The old I'm female, I've got a certain age, I'm doomed.
Yeah.
I think that's I think it is true that it does impact things, definitely. But I think it's not remotely to the degree that people think. It's the same people that will complain about these things. They're not tracking their macros. They're not exercising like you, Kimberly. They're not staying in shape. They're not doing mindfulness techniques. They're not managing their health. They're not biohacking or anything. They're just speculating why their half-ass efforts aren't producing results that they want sometimes. Then the other half of the times it is just genuine. Something is wrong with them hormonally. What's your take on like thyroid health and things like that?
Well, I mean, obviously, like you want the fat there, like you want the fat there to support like certain hormones and thyroid. But like this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Women in menopause, I know a lot of women in menopause are turning carnivore with help with thyroid, but also come to lose weight. So again, that's the situation where we've got two goals here.
Yeah,
So like that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But what I would do is make sure your fat is high enough, but you don't want to eat like a high fat carnivore diet. You just need the fat to be relatively high enough so you have enough fat coming in through the diet to support hormones and thyroid, but you also have an amount that allows you to tap into stored body fat to lose fat, not muscle mass, right? So I would say that's the area where you really want to be maneuvering and playing around with the fat lever, right? Pulling it back, but not pulling it back far enough to where you lose fat and also impact hormones and things like your thyroid function. You want it to be high enough to where you can also lose fat and support your hormones and thyroid function. So again, it's just a little bit of experimentation.
Sure. Yeah. Experimentation. Fat intake is, well, there's people say, oh, you need fat to produce cholesterol. The body produces its own cholesterol at the amount it needs, yes.
Yeah,
But
it does.
it is still a burden to the body if you don't have quite enough all the time. Like, like I said before, your body's biologically dynamic. It's not one day you need this, the next day you need the same. It could be all over the shop. Otherwise, for example, if I eat eggs for choline or for cholesterol, something like that, say one day I have 10 eggs, the next day I have 0. My cholesterol intake might be abysmal. The body has a compensation strategy for that. So I don't think that's the biggest thing, but I think having lower cortisol levels, sufficient selenium, tyrosine, iodine in your diet, things like that through animal foods, particularly fish, is useful. I'd be looking at leptin signaling, so making sure you get sunlight in the morning. That's going to encourage your sleep, which is going to encourage the production of melatonin in your sleep, which means you're going to recover better. The hormones going to work better. And to have optimal cortisol levels, you're going to need enough fat just so you're not feeling dry and horrible. Anyone that's gone low fat will know. I'll probably say, as just a general guideline, probably maybe 0.5 grams of fat per pound of body weight. Something like that. So if you're 150 pounds as a female, 75 grams of fat, that's a good sort of amount to go for at a minimum.
For sure. Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah, that's what I think. You got time for one more, or shall I just finish off the rest?
Yeah, let's and if you want, Jonathan, I can leave you on here and you can chat with. Yeah, let's do let's just check out one more. I want to see one more.
Okay, we'll do Joe. So this is my girlfriend Jo. So when you mention 130 to 140 grams of protein per day, how much of these should be non-processed, non-ultra processed proteins? Protein from whole foods rather than protein out of snacks. So she's talking about like protein pasta, protein yogurt, protein.
Gotcha. Instead of like, is she talking about like protein
artificially
powders?
Inflated protein? Protein powders, and say something's got like pea protein or wheat protein. So you get like a flatbread or something, or some bread. It will say protein bread, but it's all wheat protein. They substitute.
Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. So protein drinks, like what I would put in this, right? Those are good supplements. I prefer to get as much protein as possible from food and as little as protein as possible from things like protein powder. So the majority of my protein is going to come from whole foods, like eggs, ground beef, chicken thighs, chicken breast, cheese, stuff like that. But I try to keep my intake of protein powders, like artificial protein, basically, the way I look at it, I try to keep that as low as possible, like a protein Pepsi. Yeah. I try to keep it as low as possible. I try to go whole foods as much as I possibly can.
Bear with me, I need to go somewhere quick.
I would be interested to see what a protein Pepsi really is. I've never heard of that. I'm assuming you are adding protein, maybe like a non-flavored protein, to like a Pepsi. Maybe that's what you're doing. I don't know. But that's what I typically try to do. I try to get as much of my protein as I possibly can from whole foods. These help me hit like the last 30 or 40 grams of protein in my diet. I try to get, me personally, I shoot for anywhere between 180 to 200 grams of protein a day. It's hard to get that amount of protein in with food, especially if you're on a carnivore diet, right? Because you're so satiated, you're so full all the time. Like I'm actually trying to gain weight. So getting in my protein is hard on carnivore, but that's where something like this comes into play. But I really try to have that be to only account for a small percentage of my daily protein intake. That's just me.
Yeah, apologies for that. I think my condition is spreading a bit, so it means when I've got to go, I've got to go. So sorry about that. Apologies for everyone if that's too much information.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I know you got to go now. Just to outline why she's like, so she's part of the GLP-1 community online. She notices a lot of people are pushing protein higher, which is good. But rather than just eating meat, they're like, I'm going to buy every single protein you'll get in the supermarket for the flavor.
Yeah.
They're looking. They've got the right idea. They're just going a bit off keel a bit. So obviously, it's still a processed food. It's not going to be as nutritious as steak or eggs. You know.
Yeah.
That's why she's asking, and it's a good question.
Jonathan, this was great, man. I'm going to leave you on here
definitely.
so you can at least get to the rest of the questions here and address all your guests, because a lot of these I know your members and stuff like that. But it was awesome, man. I can't wait to do this again with you next week. Sorry I was a little late, guys. I apologize. I was having some technical difficulties on my end.
We both, it would have been the same lateness regardless, I think.
Yeah. All right. Great chat with you guys
Max.
again.
We'll catch up next week, and I'll be in touch soon.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.
Hello, guys. Just me now. Wait, try and sort my camera out a little bit. That's close enough. You can see me. Right. So I do have questions still starred and things, so apologies. I'm going to get through all of them that I can, because I'm not sat here for like 4 hours. So be patient. You are all in a queue based on chronological order on who's asked what. But I'm going to go through just quickly and scan the chat for anything I missed. So Joe said, hey, hi everyone, working so listening rather than being in the chat. Lovely. Glad you're here, Joe. Thank you for popping in. Rick said, I've never lose any muscle ever. You can't afford to, Rick. You're a string bean. You need all of it. You check your session app as well, your phone. I sent you some messages. Joe's can watch the replay. Thank you for the brilliant question as well. Appreciate that. It's got a super chat from Karen. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As always, super chats are greatly appreciated. If you want to support me personally, I do have a GiveSendGo link. I believe it's below my channel. Something like givesendgo.com/GU55A, something like that. That sort of outlines my health history, my story, and why I'm reaching out for help from people. You don't have to offer anything. It doesn't bypass you into any special group. It just means that it's worth showing a token of appreciation if you have the money to spare. And I use that towards my medical costs, which are extraordinary. So yeah, that's my little, not really sales pitch, but yeah. Jerry said, thanks for joining, Jerry. He's driving, so she can't really type and talk and stuff, but yeah. She's sort of outlining why she would never sort of go back to a standard American diet, which is brilliant. I'm glad you're holding yourself accountable, and I look forward to next month working with you. So great, take care. And Chris has asked, someone remember to put a cube full of questions, guys, because I had to really spot these out earlier. Don't forget the screen is about that big for me, and I can't read the screen. So put a cube before them and actually see them. So as someone overweight, struggling to drop weight, or purely health reasons, is simply to eat no calories. You can't eat calories, measurement of heat. You can eat food. So when someone says the word calories, say, you mean food, like meat and eggs. I need to not for aesthetics, but for health. It depends how over fat you are, Chris. Over fat is the correct terminology. Someone that's overweight in the form of fat. So it's not really being derogatory. Don't worry. Yes, in theory, if you just fast, you'll just lose all the weight. So there's one case study out there from, I believe it's the early 1900s. You can Google it. It's like type in like 1900s 1 year man went on a diet or something like that. I don't know. There's a guy who lost like hundreds of pounds or 200 pounds or something. He didn't eat for a year. He just had like a multivitamin and water, some salts, probably something like that. It can work, but it's just hard to adhere to, and you do lose muscle. That's why I prefer someone to do a protein sparing modified fast, just because at least you're retaining some of the muscle that you put on. The likelihood is if you're significantly over fat that you want to just lose it as quickly as possible, you've got key surgery date, there's a key reason you need to lose the weight, critical reason. Obviously speak for your healthcare provider or a registered nutritionist like myself. Consult with me through the links below, carnivore-muscle.com. And I'll help you out and give you the best advice. But where I'd be looking personally, Chris, would be to do a protein sparing modified fast. If my goal was absolute weight loss and didn't care about anything else, just like I need to lose weight. For example, say I had to be under a certain weight category for bodybuilding. I had a time restriction on it. Yeah. What I'm doing is high protein, low fat as I possibly can, low carb as I possibly can. Probably a lot of coffee as well to keep me awake. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I sincerely hope so. If you're still stuck, please book a consultation. They're very affordable. They're less than half what everyone else is charging, and you won't get the best advice oftentimes. So, when you mention 130 to 140 grams of protein per day, how much of these should be non-processed versus ultra-processed? I see. So, ideally, all should be non-processed whole foods. So, what I said to someone recently, who we both do, is stop adding food to your food. And they're like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense. It's like, well, yeah, you just because you put two foods together, mix it, bake it, cook it, put it in the oven, microwave it, doesn't mean it's not processed because it's two ingredients. There's a point when one ingredient plus another ingredient becomes a processed food. But the problem isn't the processed food. Think of food in a binary format. So you won't hear this anywhere else. This is my new concept. You have food, which does certain things in the body. It turns things on, turns things off. Now, when you mix these foods, it's biologically ancestral adaptive system to switch those togs on and off will be inappropriate. So, for example, if I dry out some beef jerky, naturally in the wild, I'd have just picked it off the cow and just ate it, maybe cut it a little bit, maybe boiled it in a stew if I had access to that sort of thing. But otherwise, I'd just eaten it off the cow. I'd cut a bit of meat off with my little grinder, a little spear, and a little knife. I've just eaten it. It's got the water in it because it's not been dried out. It's not got caramelization to it, so it's not been cooked so much that the proteins can to nature when they're cooked too high. I know what's in it because a cow is a cow is a cow. Now, if you have that cow, cut some meat off it, dry the meat, salt the meat, brine the meat, pepper the meat, season it, add sugar. It's not the same food anymore. It might have amino acids in it. It might be looking like a piece of meat, but it's no longer a piece of meat. It's something else. It's a processed food. The same's true with yogurts with extra fruit in, with extra powders and sweeteners and things. And no, I'm not anti-processed food in the sense that if you like it, enjoy it. But in regards to optimal human health, best practice, yes, you'll be better off eating a whole food, unprocessed diet. So an example of this, even in the vegetarian world, I can think of so many people out there that eat a whole food, plant-based diet, which are not many people, but they're quite healthy. Yes, they take supplements, B12, maybe some iron, things like that, but they're not doing too bad because they eat whole foods. Now, on the flip side, you get maybe the younger crowd. They want a vegan bar, a vegetarian sausage roll, a processed food, a product, an item which is not naturally convenient to us or accessible. So naturally, I mean naturally maybe 1,000 years ago or something. But do you see what I mean? So these foods, if they have a binary system of a yes or no, yes, it's positive for the body, no, it's not a positive body. You're going to find more of that yes or no being no in the processed food side of things. So try and think of it that way as well. I look at everything like that now. So when I see food, I just see numbers for the most part. I think, oh, I see 100 grams of protein. Oh, it's about the size of my palm. That's about 150 grams. Oh, that's about 30 grams of protein, give or take. That's how I see things nowadays. But that's the nuanced bodybuilding side of things. But the other people don't need to worry about the numbers, so to speak. They just need to track the food grams. So yeah, that's what I'm quite keen. But hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully. I believe I've got through all the questions in the chat so far, but I'm going to keep looking. Bear with me, guys. Like I said, the screen's very small, so if I can't read it, no queue. That's why, because there's no queue. Tired Rich joined. Thank you very much. So Yellow Rose. So sorry if I haven't addressed everyone in the chat. I'm not being picky. I'm just answering questions because time is valuable, and I want to help people as much as possible. That's why I'm here. Here's a good insight from Kimberly, as always. Anything that says protein on that you can buy from the store and it's in a package, it's not real protein. I would say it is. I'd say it is real protein, but I'd say it's not a real food. You get the nuance? Like, it's gonna have protein in it, so I have to say it is a real protein, yeah. But when it's just a wording me. It's me being pedantic. I wouldn't worry. Don't worry. Yeah, and Kimberly has some protein and yogurt in the morning. It's quite convenient and it makes her life a bit better and gives her some collagen there. So it's not the worst thing to have. Now she's not lacing it with loads of high fructose corn syrup and crap. So I don't see it being a problem personally. Her health isn't that bad. She actually needs to be 100% optimal carnivore. Other than that, she eats chicken and beef. Yeah, fair enough. Good morning, Terry. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you being here. Our first 40-minute segment, I'm not sure when it'll be 10 minutes ago. Our first 40-minute segment was we're talking about protein and fat, by the way. And now we're just going through, well, I'm just going through some questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Speaking of this, good morning. Hello. Hit the like button. Yes, please. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining. Thank you. We'll have a look online. What's your testimony on this channel? And Rick class, that's which is amazing. Yeah, Kimberly was a great guest. Very engaging. Great chat. I think I got through your questions, guys. So I'll give you about a minute or two to ask any more if you do have any. I'll be happy to answer them. This is your best time. You might have to wait another week. We might have to wait till Saturday on one with Rick, maybe. But yeah, I'll be joining with Rick this Saturday. But he does need to check his app. I've got some questions for him. Yeah, apologies if my breathing's a bit loud, guys. I'm not feeling very good at the moment. Also, my microphone is the most sensitive microphone in the world, so you can hear a pin drop on it. I actually tested that. I put record on my the app that the software that I use. I dropped a pin in the old house where I used to live on the floor, and I could hear the pin drop. I also had to up the volume a bit, but yeah, I could hear the pin drop. It's a very sensitive microphone. Any questions, guys? You can give another look just in case I missed it. There's George. Thank you, George. George, for the love of God, please just put your name as your profile name. No one knows who you are. Sabotage. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be oxidizing more fat for energy than most people. But you still do need more protein than a lot of people if you're doing a couple of long walks every week. I know you're quite strenuous, obviously, especially coming from your sort of background. You're sort of getting fitter and healthier still. But yeah, I don't, like I said before, I don't see a problem with your diet at all. I just keep doing it. When it doesn't work, when something changes, change it. Until then, don't waste your time. I'm glad you don't get caught up in the fluff. The random stuff that people talk about. There we go. Enjoy the rest of the day, folks. See you soon tomorrow. And it's just started raining in England. It's brilliant. I'm gonna sit back down now, take my hot, sweaty jumper off, and relax. But I appreciate everyone joining today. The time now to ask questions has been finished, has been completed. Definitely join Rick and I, live 8 with Rick on Saturday morning. I believe that is 8 a.m. Eastern time, US, and I believe 1 p.m. UK time in UK. I'll see you guys there. Thanks very much for joining. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the great questions you've had today. They've been very, very thoughtful, insightful, and look forward to next week. We'll be doing another session. We'll be up to episode 3 by that point, and hopefully, you guys will gain some more insights there. We'll have a little discussion between us, and I might be able to find a topic for you guys if I'm quick. I could leave you guessing, but it's always better just to tell something. The next topic will be, surprising, why do you not need carbs to get huge? But this will be relevant to everyone, so don't think, oh, I'm a woman, I don't want to get huge, I don't need to watch it. No, you do need to watch it because you need to maintain your muscle mass. So it does apply to everyone. So don't think it's just a men's podcast by any stretch. In fact, most people in the chat today are actually female. So there we go. We've got a lot of buff women out there. Ooh, that hurt. All right, take care, everyone. See you soon.